Although the term fangirl was first made official in 2004, fangirls have existed in some form or another since the dawn of man, or rather woman. They're often viewed as overly obsessive and socially inept, but is that really all fangirls are? Are they actually harmful, or is fangirling a form of escapism that's shadow driving our modern economy? In today's episode, we track the evolution of the fangirl from Paleolithic to modern day in order to answer the age-old question, should women have hobbies? Let's investigate by first going way back. In the late Paleolithic and Neolithic period, there were few things worth obsessing over apart from surviving, but interests such as eating, not freezing to death, and reproducing gave birth to the hunting fandom, the natural elements fandom, and of course, the woman fandom. We don't see this a lot in early history, but the number of fangirls 10,000 years ago was significantly less than the number of fan men, especially in what were presumed to be matriarchal tribes. Now, I can only theorize what things were like literally 20,000 years ago, but fanboy activities included making goddess statues and engaging in hunting rituals, while fangirl activities were possibly talking to the rain and getting pregnant. There's not enough evidence of fiction given that there was no writing, so unfortunately, a crucial part of fangirl culture, fanfiction, could not flourish. That being said, animism or early persona conceptualization fan art has been preserved. Now, to see the first instances of fangirls being a crucial and respected part of a male-dominated society, we go to ancient Egypt, where without question the biggest franchise was the pantheon of gods, covering all genres and aspects of life, from nature to society, the soul, war, like freaking moisture. The cast of gods was very diverse, featuring many respectable female goddesses. And although these are unrealistic expectations for women's bodies, all women of ancient Egypt participated in this fandom. In fact, the woman of the house would be responsible for creating shrines for the gods inside the home and making sure they're well kept, while the women most devoted to the gods would serve as priestesses, aka the ancient equivalent of whatever the owners of Twitter fan pages are called. They would reside in women-only temples, aka whatever the opposite of a pub house is. And activities of devotion included making music and hymns for the deities, providing offerings, and tending to the goddesses' estates. Now, it's important to mention that these women's significance has often been overlooked. Their exclusion from history is perhaps due to the Christian exclusion of women from priestly activities. Some early historians concluding, a bunch of women in one place, gotta be a harem for the priest that's actually in charge of this whole shtick. But most often these temples' leaders were of noble descent and females had the same duties male priests did. Additionally, like a dominating Twitter fan page, these chantresses had the power to cancel and control people with seemingly high social standing, such as military officials. Here we have both fan art and literature that's been preserved. I believe the impact of this franchise is so major because of its size, mandatory nature, and vast canon. Ancient Greece and Rome also had their deities, which have fangirls even to this day. Like, do not impregnate me. But with time, we see a shift in fangirl culture from religious figures to celebrities. This is thanks to what is perhaps to this day one of the largest, most lucrative forms of entertainment: sports. Yes, there were poets and playwrights and philosophers, but during the height of the Roman Empire, nothing won the people over like some pre-industrial Formula 1 and public sport. Like, forget gamer go bathwater, gladiator sweat was sold as an aphrodisiac, and wealthy women would also hire gladiators as bodyguards. Quotation marks. But craziest of all, charioteers. To this day, Gaius Applesauce Diocles is considered the highest paid athlete to ever live. Charioteer fanboys and fangirls were very similar to modern day sports fans, except that one time a group of fans stabbed the commander to death for arresting their favorite charioteer right before a race, leading to Emperor Theodosius ordering their town to be massacred, leading to him being excommunicated by the bishop and not allowed entry to the church until he serves a public penance. And I'm kind of adding this last bit of info as an example of how the church was at that point powerful and important enough to do shit like that, which is a perfect segue to the next era of fangirls, the Jesus fandom. This Tumblr post is something I often think about. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? It's basically a drawing and someone is asking, hey, where's this from? And their reply is like, the Bible. During the medieval era, feelings, plumbing, and women were frowned upon. I mean, back then, women weren't even allowed to hang out without males present. Unless nunneries. Oh yeah, female mystics and brides of Christ. Some of these women were even free to write fanfiction, aka theology, and had spiritual influence, mirroring the modern phenomena of Tumblr snake wives and homoerotic Harry Potter fanfiction. Although the church was somewhat responsible for the negative view of women during this period, it was at the same time their only solace, because expressing certain emotion was seen as inappropriate, bad. But in the context of religion, those emotions were seen as a sign of devotion to God. Oh, okay. So, he who is without sin cast the first stone. So true. Oh my god, he died for our sins. Also, fan art was permitted and encouraged except during these two periods. And it's also worth mentioning there was another much smaller community opposing the Jesus fandom, the witches, and their fandom was called the Coven. But I've already talked about those plenty, so the next step that led to the fangirl evolving was opulence. From deities to sweaty men to queen worship. Literally, queen worship. Fangirls are finally nearing what they somewhat resemble today, a monetizable status symbol. See, Elizabeth of York would surround herself with powerful, beautiful fangirls at all times that maximized each other's slay, and every noblewoman wanted to be them so bad, Mean Girl style. Queen Elizabeth I, some 50 years later, amplified this, creating numerous ridiculous and harmful trends for fangirls to strive for, such as light skin whitening makeup, defeating the Spanish Armada, and rotting teeth. Post-Renaissance is where we get the closest to the modern fangirl. During the 18th and 19th centuries, we see a rise in literacy. Entertainment is more accessible than ever, and romanticism has transformed genius into charm. The pianist Franz Liszt is probably the best example for this romantic cult of genius. He was a very technically skilled performer and piano teacher who made a name for himself in Paris and later toured Europe for 8 years. But more importantly, during his concerts, women especially would lose their freaking minds, almost making hysteria seem like a plausible medical diagnosis. See, his piano skills made it sound like he had an extra hand on the keyboard, but also, he was kinda cute. Cute enough to have ladies acting improper, screaming, throwing flowers, letters, undergarments, following him to places where he dines to steal his used napkins, or taking his leftover cigar butts and pressing them into lockets. I mean, there was freaking merch. His face was painted on brooches and necklaces, and you thought your Harry Styles pin was special. Also fun to mention, his hair was kind of a big deal, and he would send some of his locks to fans that written to him. Except it wasn't really his hair, but his dog's. To sum this all up, he ran so Frank Sinatra, Elvis, the Beatles for 2008 teenagers, and Korean Beatles could walk. And here we are, modern times. Celebrity worship and non-existent men. Now this video would be hours if I had to talk about every James Dean, Brad Pitt, and Vince Neil. But everyone knows about the groupies, the stalker fans, the second coming of the Jesus fandom in the form of the Harry Potter franchise. He died for his sins, alongside a plethora of fictional men. Online White Boy of the Month worship communities and social media have given an abundance of spheres and subjects to fangirl over. I'd say the abundance has lowered the standards though. I mean, seriously, fawning over someone called Timothy? Timothy? Come on. I would say longevity and levels of devotion have decreased as well, but still. We've tracked the evolution of the fangirl and we can safely assume they have always existed and always will. Now to answer the question, is it really so wrong to be a fangirl? Yes. I'm joking. There are two instances of obsessive fangirl behavior I took into consideration while making my conclusion. Women crying during a Taylor Swift album party, and this woman making erotic fanfiction of herself and a fictional teen on TikTok. This is something that I had a hard time understanding. It upset me. It made me angry. In my head, this was a severe overreaction to a billionaire crying about fabricated four-chord struggles. But then I realized what actually upset me about it. I was jealous. Because this is a community. This is the Temple of Hathor. Something that resonates with these women has created a bond between them, and the lyrics, regardless of whether they are superficial or not, have opened the door to a friendship that's definitely real. While I spend my evenings alone making this bullshit. We like to make fun of a lot of things that are mostly enjoyed by women, but we don't really think about how these are positive, safe spaces for girls. Books made for a female audience are seen as less intelligent. Female metal fans are definitely introduced to the music by their cool dad or ex, while female sports fans need to name the quarterback and they're still probably only fans for male attention. The community aspect ultimately gets spoiled by things like this. Taylor is like an unethical ozone-destroying Jesus for these women, and as far as I know, they've never stabbed a single commander that the Emperor might favor. Yet I've listened to people with so much venom talk shit about Swifties and declare that they would never listen to her. And whatever, I get it, you like Radiohead, why say it in a way that brings others down though? These chicks out here making bracelets and sharing them with each other while the largest media representation you've gotten so far is Scott-fucking Terrorman who ate his parents. We all need some self-reflection time before ripping on others. He who is without sin or whatever, right? Subject number 2 on the other hand, I can't really make the same excuses for. This is someone sinking into a false reality. This person has people in their life that they actively disregard in favor of an obsession. How can a healthy community exist when there are no principles to bond over, when the only aspect of the infatuation is an unhealthy false attachment based primarily on sexual attraction? He did not die for our sins, he is just a B-plot with long hair. I want to wrap this up by really just asking you, the viewer, how did fangirling have a positive/negative effect on your personal development? It's a really broad subject, and I was really more keen on delivering, fun history tidbits and having the more serious talk in the comments. But I end this video saying fangirl should be a gender-neutral term, and you can like what you like as long as you remember to touch grass and talk, but also listen to the people that love you. Okay, bye.